I think this podium was made for people who are of certain heights. And it so happened that majority of the people who have stood here can't be seen. Maybe next time they may consider having a step for those of us who are below 5'3". Excellency Governor Muthomi Njuki, Chair of the COG Health Committee at this particular time. Vice President of East Africa and South Africa CHAI, the Clinton Health Initiative, Gerard Macharia, the board member for Elma, Bernadette Moffat, the Chair Emeritus for Kenya Pediatric Fellowship, and the lead, Dr. Thomas Ngwiri, faculty members, national and county government officials, members of the academia, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Before I even do my speech, I just have to comment about the doctors who've spoken, and most especially about Dr. Ngwiri. I don't know, I was telling my colleague, even listening to Dr. Wamalwa and the pediatrics around this room, that you pediatricians are very soft-spoken and very tempered and very calculated in the way you speak. And I couldn't not mention my experience with pediatricians. We had a pediatrician, and I think even Macharia knows this pediatrician, who was called Dr. Mohudia. And he was our pediatrician for all our children. And you know, we would run to this clinic in panic. You know, the baby's about to die, and there is a fever, and we're screaming, and we don't know what the problem is. And you reach there and you want to jump the line, because you know yours is a very critical issue. You know how it is, especially when you're a first-time parent. And then Mohodia, when you walk in, he just looks at you very calmly and says, please put the baby on the bed. You're like, what? And then he says, please undress the baby, with that tone, that speed. Now you can imagine you are driving almost on the wrong side of the road. And this doctor is not even, and then after that he would warm his hands very slowly, and says, so, how long has this been going on for? So you say for the last 2 hours, half of it you've been driving, you know? Okay, and he would press the stomach, lift the legs, stretch the hands, then turn the baby, and you almost want to tell him, you know how the babies are, the way doctors stand, you know you're pediatrician, we are not pediatricians. So I had to say this story, because we talk about it all the time. And then put the baby down, and says, please dress the baby. And you're like, you won't tell me or give him something so that at least he stays alive. Anyway, the long and short, of course, all the children are alive and well. He'd send you home with probably just colic relief, you know, that drop, and then tell you to make sure that you give the baby water and then bath the baby, and don't worry, if they don't eat, you know, no child will starve themselves to death. So we really appreciate you as pediatricians. So our children are all alive, and this week we were also extremely blessed to get our 5th grandchild. Again, I must say this, we are not being led to breathe at home, because my husband was born a second time. In Kikuyu, you know the name, born a second time meaning the child is named after him, and it's the second child named after him. So we are not breathing at home because of that, but we really appreciate the role of pediatricians, and we all know, especially for the younger mothers, we went through the exact same thing, and we are watching our children going through the same drama. So we appreciate you. I had to say that before my speech. So good morning. It gives me great joy to be here today to witness the launch of this scholarship program for health workers. The Council of Governors and county governments are very pleased with this program since it comes in to fill a critical gap. One of ensuring we have health workforce that is fully suited for the job. As you all know, health workers play a central role in health service delivery. In that regard, let me take this early opportunity to thank the Clinton Health Access Initiative, the Kenya Pediatric Association, and Elmer Philanthropies for their role in this program, as well as academic institutions that have offered themselves to train our health workers under this program. Asanteni sana. Ladies and gentlemen, the recent released 2022 Kenya Demographic Health Survey indicated improvements in overall child health outcomes since 2014. The under 5 mortality rate declined from 52 deaths in 2014 to 41 deaths per 1,000 live births in the 2022 survey, while the infant mortality rate declined from 39 to 32 deaths per 1,000 live births. Despite this, the neonatal mortality rate remained the same, slightly declining from 22 to 21 deaths per 1,000 live births. Neonatal deaths account for 66% of infant deaths and 51% of under 5 deaths. We also know that Kenya loses an estimated 64,400 children under 5 years of age and 5,600 mothers annually from preventable and treatable conditions, some of which can be attributed to the shortage of pediatric subspecialists. Availing pediatric subspecialists, especially in health facilities with acute shortages, will therefore address the problem and help in the achievement of the universal health coverage. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the biggest successes of devolving health has been around the health workforce. Devolution has allowed Kenya to rapidly build up a large pool of highly qualified health workers across all cadres, and at the same time ensured that this important resource is more equitably distributed across the country. Between 2016 and 2021, for example, the total number of health workers in counties improved by 61% from 59,726 to 96,453. In addition to this, the distribution across Kenya also improved as county governments executed customized strategies to attract, develop, and retain high-quality healthcare workers. Today, even counties in hard-to-reach areas have significantly more health workers compared to the pre-devolution period. For example, Turkana County had less than 10 medical officers before devolution, a number that has increased sixfold to 61 doctors in 2023. This story is similar in most counties. It is also important to note that through supporting health workers to take further studies, county governments have driven a rapid emergence of health specialists, even in areas where there were none before, which fosters a better skill mix. This has allowed counties to provide a wide range of specialized health services, even in areas where these services were not available before devolution. We note that this scholarship program will strengthen this area even more and help us foster the delivery of high-quality health services. Ladies and gentlemen, despite making rapid and significant progress in healthcare delivery since the onset of devolution, we still have gaps in certain areas. Let me take palliative care and cancer care, for instance. We all know that we have made significant steps in improving access to cancer services across the country. Despite this, the majority of those diagnosed with cancer, 7 out of 10, are diagnosed during the late stages of these diseases that require palliative care. Very few of these patients will, however, access this care, and access becomes more limited even amongst certain groups, such as children. Less than 5% of pediatric patients who need palliative care have access to it. This is a trend we must all change. This trend is not limited to cancer palliation. There are other areas within our health programs, like HIV, where children are disproportionately underserved. This is why this program is very appropriate. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, the Council of Governors and county governments remain fully committed to working alongside all of you to optimize contributions by our human resource for health. We know that this will go a long way in fulfilling the requirements provided by the Constitution of Kenya that guarantee all citizens the right to affordable and accessible health care. Before I conclude, I would like to respond to the three of the asks, because we didn't know when we were coming here that there would be asks. But I would like to respond to the three of them. One of them is a request for county governments to release you as medics when you request us to go for training. And I want to say that the national government and the county governments are working in partnership to come up with formula that can allow all requests to be accommodated. And the reason we're doing this, it's being dealt with under the new, recently set up high-level health committee that will look at how we remunerate. Because one of the challenges that comes up is when a county doesn't have that many doctors, and then you have to release the few that you have. I will give you an example of Kirinyaga County. There was a time, I think we had about 15 or 20, 25 of our doctors in training. And then the only ones who had been left were, I think, 21. So you can imagine now when another one makes a request, when you say, please wait for the 25 to come back so that you can go, they take that as if it's a no. So sometimes you need to understand, and we put aside for capacity building and professional training of medics. And my chair of health is here, and as you said, even me, I will be voting for you to retain your seat as a chair of health. We are very good friends, by the way, so we do that in jest. I think that's one of the things we can take up. So as we are making proposals in the law, that we safeguard a certain percentage that cushions the counties, and we are then able to release more doctors to be trained, and maybe even add in the policy and in the acts that it's actually a requirement that you be trained every 5 years. I would be very worried to have a doctor who treats me, who either doesn't have a partnership of professionals that enables them to continually learn. I'm privileged to have a personal doctor who, by the way, the reason I chose him is because his entire life at the time, until very recently, was dedicated to medicine. I don't know whether it's a good thing. He didn't have any distractions. Let me not add details. But he also was very well read. And so any question we asked, he was always bringing doctors from other countries to come and do specialized procedures on patients in Kenya, and that tells you that they're continuously learning. When you ask questions about medicine, even if it's something I've Googled, he seems to always be ahead of me. And that is what we want with our medics, because things change every day. Sometimes you think medicine is useful, then you discover that they have found out that it actually has some adverse side effects, and we're still continuing to use them without knowing. Or maybe you continue to prescribe. Or, for example, new technologies for treating things that we have been treating maybe very invasively. And nowadays we have very non-invasive, I think you call it. I think the word is laparoscopy, you know, those things. And some of the things that we go through every day. So we appreciate, and you can see I even know a little bit, very little, but enough to know that you want to have a doctor who is very well learned. I think the other thing I will mention in line with that, maybe I mentioned that with the strikes. The second issue is on the hospitals that can be training sites, and I think Governor Modhomi has alluded to it and has taken that as well. We will be working with the committee to identify those hospitals and ensure that with the support that we're getting with partners from CHAI, they have the relevant equipment to support you and the people who have actually been trained to support those institutions to also become training centers, and then we can diversify our workforce. The third thing I was asked was about resources that are still held for this training at the national government. Or this kind of training on the national government. And Mary, I know you noted it when we were there. I wasn't very clear about which these resources are. Ministry of Health is here. Maybe we can have a chat after this and see what help you need from us to ensure that resources for this program are actually prioritized and released as they should be. Whatever support you need from us, we will give it to you. And I'm sure you know when we say support, we have ways of ensuring that money gets to where it's supposed to go. So let me mention the issue of the strike. Again, as you have heard, we appreciate the right for every person to picket, especially if you feel aggrieved. But we also would want to ask you as medical practitioners to be a little bit more, just a little bit more, just a little bit more sensitive to the current situation we are in. When I walked in this morning, I was chatting with both the board chair and CHAI, and I said I'm very concerned about the current economic state of our country right now, because the dollar seems to be conspiring against us. I mean, no matter what we are doing, it's not responding. It hasn't responded so far. We are still hoping that it does. And that brings a huge burden on the national government. And you being medics, we know that when you choose to do medicine, you're A students, the brightest in this country. So you know that we have a problem with our economy, and especially because of the international economic environment and the dollar or the foreign currency. And that puts a huge burden on the country in terms of servicing debt. And, you know, we inherited a huge debt that we are still trying to manage. Even as we speak, resources and taxes are not flowing as yet at the level at which we would want. But we know that with time, that will probably be resolved if everything works together. Not just in Kenya, but also internationally, because it's really affected by the international forces. So to request at this point in time a salary increase, which even for us, that which had been given was frozen for the year until the economy improves, I think is really not very sensitive. That's why I said be a little bit more sensitive. And we would urge you to be a little bit more patient, like the rest of Kenyans. Many Kenyans are struggling at this point in time, and we are working very hard night and day to see what it is that we can do to ease that burden. So yes, we would want to give you a salary increase, Right now, it's not looking like it's going to be possible with the context with which I have just alluded to. The increase in the resources to the counties wasn't even enough to cater for that which we needed to cater with the ones who are there right now and deal with the demands of the counties at this point in time. But I'm sure there will be a comprehensive response from the council, and would ask to give us more time and let us all pull together from all our sides to ensure that the country is coming up as it should. And if it does, then there will be a time when we can have this conversation with you. And also, the timing, we always shoot ourselves in the foot. It will not help this country if we ourselves give a bad picture to the very thing that we are here discussing to improve. We're just about to launch UHC. We've worked very hard with the county governments to ensure that we're increasing the numbers of medics, as I have read. I've given you the statistics. You've looked at the KNBS data. You have seen the outcomes are actually improving. But then to coincide this with UHC so that you push the narrative that health is not working at the county is, let me say, it's not fair. I was looking for a polite word. It's not fair. We all know health is much better today than it was 10 years ago. It's a fact. It's a fact. Look at the statistics, you can see it. Health facilities have improved, they have increased, number of medics has increased. We are here talking about training and improving service delivery. We know that we are better off in the counties than we were before devolution came. And what we should be doing, even if we have other factors or people or systems or ambitions driving us to make certain statements, let us learn as a country to be a little bit more honest about the things that are, and then where there are problems, let us work to resolve them. But let us not always cast aspersions for the sake of short-term gains. This issue of health is not just about me and you, it's about the entire country. We cannot improve in economics or anything if we do not have health. It's actually the basic of our well-being as a country. So I hope that my statement will be received well. And so that I end with a nice note, I would like to take this opportunity to appreciate Chai and thank you for your offer of equipment. We will be following you up on that and the dashboard as well. And to all of you who are going to be graduating, we would like to congratulate you. Let me take this opportunity to thank you once more and retaliate our full commitment to work with all of you in improving health outcomes for the people of Kenya. Asanteni sana.